Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We got a big treat today. We got Beautiful Boy, which is one of my favorites, at least more recently, one of my favorite cinematography pieces. It's really good. This is an example of not your typical coverage, I would say. It's a little bit of an awkward scene in an awkward location and making the most of it, absolutely knocking it out of the park. And sometimes it's good to look at examples where you don't quite agree with how somebody did something, or you don't quite, maybe you would have tweaked it a little bit differently. Those are fun to look at to identify problems. But then it's really good just to look at awesome stuff and go like, wow, they just nailed it. I would like to nail it too. What did they do? I can take that on board, and then I will nail it as well, even though, you probably never do nail it when you do it, but then you blame people around you, right? You blame sound. You blame the producer. You blame the focus puller. Focus puller I would blame last, by the way. That's just career advice. You probably don't want to be taking anything out on the camera department. That's just a bad idea in general. Always go farther afield, right? Sound, producer, behind their backs. Never to them, behind their backs. That's the easiest way. And then talk about how, especially if you're in the commercial, we'll talk about how shitty the storyboards are. Like, I would never do it like this. But then definitely make sure you cross off every storyboard as you do it exactly as it looks, so that you don't get any chit-chat, any talkback from client and agency. Okay, that was a different start. I just hit the microphone. That's going to sound terrible. To a breakdown video, but we're going to go. If you like this content, if you like the breakdown that's going to happen, not this shitty bit at the beginning, but the breakdown bit, you can get more of that without this intro over on Patreon. Link is in the description. Help support the channel. I appreciate it. Couldn't do it without you. Let's go. Here, you set the level to not clipping here. As long as it's not clipping here, everything else falls into place. And then you decide on how much room tone and how much key to push in. So set the camera to what you can't control. In this situation, we're shooting into the L of the room. I mean, it is dark inside, right? We got our computer screens going, add little pops. We got our tungsten light, this huge thing that we're coming through here. And this stuff in the foreground. Like, there's just lots and lots of layers that we are dealing with here. And it's that slow creep in as he's working all to the shadow side. And now we know, as soon as we've decided that shot, go back. It would be cool if these things worked. As soon as we've decided on that wide, we know that everything, we're going to be on the shadow side. We're going to have the window coming from the light from the window that we can't see, like this, right? This is a no-brainer. You don't have to change, you don't have to change anything if you don't want to, from the wide to this shot, right? Maybe there's a little bit of something coming back here at him, right? Maybe there's a little poly or a little tiny bit of level coming back at him. You can see, I mean, that's the silver of his glasses, but it feels, right? It feels a little bit lifted, but really this is just, again, corner of the room up there, all these lines from the desk going this way, everything going that way, and then everything in the background going this way and this way, right? Just creating those interesting lines. And then you want to talk layers. We've got, in the foreground, where's the pen? We got this stuff here. We've got all this stuff, right? All foregroundy stuff. Then we've got him. Then we've got the chair. Then we've got the wall. And then we've got the exterior. Lots and lots of layers peppered in there. And this, you couldn't really write a more boring scene, right? It's a guy at a computer doing research. He's sitting there, is this going, should I do drugs? Again, little tiny creepy push. And so how do we make it interesting, right? We use those little tiny pushes. We use those little tiny moves to say, okay, things are actually moving. And then this is a very good, I think this is also a set, I think is what they said, but that looks more real outside. So it doesn't really matter, even if it is a set. Let's do it, because this shot is the hard one. Okay, so just notice the setup, first of all. 2 beds in the room. The window is going to be one on this wall and all the other windows on this wall. So this is going to be this is the angle that generally you want to spend the least amount of time on, because this is going to be the one that looks the worst, because we're looking right into where all of the light is shining, right? So we're going to get very little shadow here. So this is the hard balancing shot. We don't stay on it too long. We see him come in. Again, look at how down she is. Let them come into it, especially in drama. I also like that little backlight there in the hallway. They come in, again, very little time, and now we've positioned ourselves in the perfect corner, right? We're not in this corner over here facing into the light, because we're gonna, as soon as they sit down for a conversation, we're going to push all the level through this faux window over here. This stuff here is just for looks, just for highlights. We're not going to use that as our key light. So where they sit and where they have this confrontation is important. So as we watch the scene play out, he comes, he's going to sit in the middle. He's not going to face the window. He's not going to sit down over here and face this way. All right. Also, the triangle. Look how the triangle stops so we can see everybody. Nobody is overlapping another person. And then boom, we don't even see them sit down, right? They just go. They just get into it. And this, having this there is the key thing to selling the look for the rest of the shots. And you're going to have room tone in here for sure, coming down here. You can feel it on the top of his head, right? That is, and you can see just how little the room tone is. I mean, it is barely above what is actually there, but that's all you need sometimes, right? Like, there is not a lot on the top of his head, but that value is not coming from nowhere. That's not coming from one of the windows outside. That's coming from above, right? That is just that little tiny bit of, we just need to thicken up the toe of the image. Well, let's just softly get it in there. And you can't feel where that light is coming from, right? Again, it's not really shadow-based. It's as soft as you can make it and just beat the direction out of it altogether. It should just lightly fall. And this is why it looks so good, because you're able to do those things. Now we come in here. Okay. Again, I really like the distance here too. I like the focal length and I like the separation. You got all these little lines going here, but this only comes from having them sit here and faking like the light is, the window is coming, the light is coming from the window, right? The window that we can't see. Because this is not an easy direction to be shooting in. Again, we don't really have anything to have any accents in the background. I mean, we get a little bit of depth there with this darker, lighter, darker, lighter. And then the door behind is kind of nice, especially because he's in such a dark jacket, just to bring up those highlights a little bit. But this is not the easy angle. The easier angle, if you're doing a montage ad, is facing back this way towards him, because then you have those things in the background to create a little bit of depth. Keep going. I mean, but this is not a difficult lighting setup. This is not difficult at all. You get room tone in the background, pretty directionless. Like, look at the shadows. Right, you can't really see shadows anywhere, so it's just as soft as you can possibly go. And then here, we're just setting up, you know, what is this, like a 6x? Just off of frame left where that window is, and you just make it big enough to wrap around to the other cheek, position it according to the talent, get that eye line looking nice, and that's it, static. Leave it. Big, wide, conversational piece, we're gonna match it. And flip it around. We missed that one. Come back to it. Give me another chance. At the other angle. Come on. There we go. Look up. Look up. Oh. Now we lost her. We'll talk about her position. I mean, this is right there. So she's in the background. We're still hitting her from both sides. Right? We've got that little sandwich that's going on there just to bring some level. She's outside of the shoulder, so she's not, you know, being screwed by Steve Carell's shoulder getting in her way. We got the bed line going through it. I like the mirror, which is returning the, what is that? That is going to be the 6x6 right here, a full grid that we are shooting into, or the magic cloth that we're using to light him. That's inside the reflection there. And this is, you know, we're playing it a lot darker here. Even here, you got a little tiny leak coming from behind, right? One of these things. And again, just a nice, solid, stable image. Let the actors do their work. And sit down on the bed, Mom. Yes, she does. Now, this is what I was talking about when that interview, talking about Ruben liking his sources a little bit harder. Rather than building up the ambient, he's going to play it just a little bit harder. Right now, he's not going to play this key light a little bit harder. I mean, that is a nice balance there between that, key, shadow, edge. This is hot. Right? And most people, you'd be looking to take that away. But it does something interesting, right? It just pulls that out there. And sometimes it's nice to have that mix up between the two, where you got this nice, beautiful soft light here with edge, light, darkness, and then super hot edge. And we keep going. Also, the only thing that I'm not a crazy fan of this entire movie is the noise, is the film grain that they put on. The film grain is so heavy. I don't know if you can see it, but if you've seen the movie, you can't miss it. I mean, it is so, it's the heaviest film grain added I've ever seen. and they commit to it. They're like, fuck it, we're doing it. Okay, let's get out of this. I think this is, oh, we go to more coverage, close-ups. Where are you? There you go. Close up and cut to me. Now, again, now we're playing this perfect, man. So still playing her, you know, quite overexposed. But here, highlight, that's it. Just a tiny, tiny little highlight coming down this side of the face. All right, cuts off here. Light, light, light. The good part about having her lit up like that, I mean, you could take it down a tiny bit if you wanted, but you get light to dark to light on her face, right? We're shooting into the corner again, shadow side this side, light side this side. Got a little tiny edge over here on the shadow side of his head. Just a little bit of something there in the hair just to pull it out. Really, really nice. And then obviously he's looking to the open side of the frame, right? You don't want to cut somebody's face off this way, unless you're doing Mr. Robot or something like that. Cut to his, we know that's going to be easy. Just look at how much shadow difference there is between the two, right? Between his and his, much more open, right? And you can even see in his eye, looks like he's got another highlight. So there's one in the corner, and then there's another one above camera, right? This is what above camera wrap looks like, because you've got key over here, right? Giving us this, all of this level, all of that level. But then if you're going to go above camera, you know, you don't get much bleed into here, but you get all of this, right? So that's above camera and a little bit left. So camera, key, above camera, and that's how you get that little tiny bit of wrap. But the changes, point being, when you're looking at a scene like this, the changes that happen between shooting that big wide and shooting every other shot in here is maybe one single light and changing the diffusion, right? That's all you're doing. You're changing where the diffusion is inside of the room for each different angle, but you're not changing anything else. Room tone staying the same, everything else staying the same. So it takes a little bit longer to set up than, what movie am I thinking about where they always had that hair light? Rocket Man, right? Rocket Man, when you're changing directions and changing the light every single time you change the direction, it gets really, really hard to get into a rhythm. It's also just for a cinematographer, it's way more work. It's like, let's just figure out what's going to be the best angle in here for the light, and then we shoot it that way. Okay, if you like naturalistic cinematography that is heightened, that has a little bit of slickness to it, I would highly suggest Beautiful Boy, just for seeing a bunch of different areas where you're able to maintain this contrast and this look across the entire film. Really hard to do, and they do it oh so well in that film. Okay, many thanks for checking it out. We'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.